Hi, Noah. I'm so excited to be reading a story to you today. It's called Floating. Have you ever wondered why some things sink and some things float? Let's find out by reading this story together. If you put a leaf in a bowl of water, the leaf floats. It sits on top of the water. If you put a twig in the water, it also floats. This is because the leaf and the twig are lighter than the water. Solids that are lighter than a liquid will float. If you put a rock in the same bowl of water, the rock sinks. It falls to the bottom of the bowl. If you put a marble in the bowl of water, it also sinks. This is because the rock and marble are heavier than the water. Solids that are heavier than a liquid will sink. But that's not the whole story. Have you ever seen a giant cruise ship or a cargo ship piled high with heavy containers? How are these huge ships able to float on water? Let's find out. How does a ship float? It uses tanks filled with air. The air in the ship's tanks weighs less than the water, so the ship floats. What makes a submarine sink? A submarine also has air tanks. When submarines need to go underwater, air from the tanks is released. That makes the submarine heavier than the water, so it sinks. Have you ever put ice cubes into a glass of water? If you have, you may have noticed that the water level in the glass rises when you put the ice cubes in it. That's called buoyancy. It's a really big word. Whenever a solid is put in a liquid such as water, the solid pushes some liquid away. The water level rises. A light object weighs less than the water it pushes away, so the object floats. A heavy object weighs more than the water it pushes away, so the object sinks. If you think about a ship, the reason it floats is because it weighs less than the water it pushes away. Did you also know that liquids can float or sink? This is because some liquids are thicker than other liquids. Maple syrup is very thick. Oil is thinner than syrup. If you mixed syrup, oil, and water together, the syrup would sink. The oil would float on top. Scientists study whether objects float or sink to make better ships, planes, and medicines. Understanding the properties of matter, such as whether they sink or float, helps you learn about the world around you. What would you like to learn about sinking and floating? One thing you might be able to do at home is pick 5 objects and predict whether they'll sink or float. Once you've made your predictions, test it out. Put them in a bathtub or a bowl or tank of water and test to see if you're right. I hope you get a chance to try that activity at home, and I hope you enjoyed listening to this story today. I know I enjoyed reading to you. Thanks.